By the way, for most of American history, gambling was something you just did not do, at least not out in the open. But we are no longer living in most of American history. Legal and socially acceptable gambling is now everywhere. State lotteries since '64, Native American casinos since '79, and now with sports betting legal in most states and smartphones in most pockets, the books never close and you never have to leave the track. But allow me just for a moment, I am the son of a drug dealer, to clutch my pearls, because more gambling does mean more potential problem gambling. And again, pearls firmly in hand. Our children are watching. Yes, it is illegal for anyone under 18 to gamble. And yes, for online sports betting in most states, you do have to be 21. And yes, the American Gaming Association says the legal sites use age verification and will terminate underage accounts. However, imagine you are a teenager today. Gambling is just part of life. The moms and dads you know do it, and your dumb teenage brain is surrounded by it all the time. The sports sites, the casino apps, the scratchers, the daily fantasy, you name it. So you know what happens? Teens find a way. And for many, it does in fact become an issue. In fact, teens are way more likely to meet the definition of problem gambling, as it's known in the term of art, than grown-ups are. And parents, they may not even know if their kids are gambling at all, at least according to one survey. So, the big questions: how do you know? And how worried should you be? And how do you actually talk to your kids about gambling without them calling you a hypocrite? I learned it from you, Dad. Let's talk to an expert.
We have clinical psychologist Dr. Lisa Damour here. She is the author of The Emotional Lives of Teenagers, Raising Connected, Capable, and Compassionate Adolescents. Dr. Damour, good morning.
Good morning.
Always love when you are able to be here. So how big of an issue is this? Do you see this among your own patients?
I am hearing about it quite a bit. It is something that is rising among teenagers, largely boys. And I can tell you, if a kid isn't doing it, he knows lots of kids who are doing it. So it is very much out and about. And we have a new study from The Lancet showing that 18% of teenagers gambled in the last year.
In the last year?
Yeah.
Almost 1 in 5?
Yeah.
It's becoming so normalized now. Even Dave & Buster's, a kind of family fun zone, now has a thing in the app where you can wager on skee ball. I mean, it is in every part of your life. So if a kid is engaging in it, if they're in that 18%, first of all, how can you tell as a parent? And then how worried?
So the kinds of things you should be looking for is what's going on with their money, right? Are their accounts dropping? Is something looking strange? Or sometimes kids will set up an account with an older teenager to get around the age verification. So if your kid is suddenly Venmoing a lot of money to some random kid somewhere, that is worth being curious about. You should also be curious if their interest in sports seems to go beyond like just normal enthusiasm, right? If they are suddenly very anxious or very preoccupied about games, features of the games, or sports that they were never interested in before. If they are suddenly fascinated by those, that should raise your Scooby sense.
That's a really good tip, because some parents have a lot of controls over their phones and know what and can see what their kids are doing, maybe look in the Venmo, but a lot of parents don't or are very busy. But that idea of pay attention to what they're paying attention to. A question that we got from a producer is, should parents not talk about gambling if they themselves gamble in the household to avoid the subject or not encourage their kids?
Well, if they themselves are gambling, their kids almost certainly know, and we do know that that increases the likelihood of the teenager gambling. But parents should talk about this. This is a risk. This is a risk for teenagers, and we should just approach it like we approach all risks, which is basically get a conversation going, keep the channels of communication open. So for any risk, I love starting with teenagers saying, what do you know about this? Don't assume they are starting from zero. And then say, what do you think about this? Because you're going to get two different kinds of answers, probably many answers. You can get a kid who's like, I think it's really cool. You're having one conversation. Or the kid who's like, I'm watching my friends get in really bad spots with this. You're having a different conversation. And then share what you're worried about.
So allow me to catastrophize as a parent for a moment. I can imagine a teenager gambling, liking the flavor of the risk, and then doing other risky things. Speeding, cramming for tests, unprotected this, dangerous that, drugs. Is that a chain of reaction that can happen, or should we not?
I wouldn't worry too much about that. You're asking, is like gambling a gateway to all risk taking?
Yes.
I don't think we have any data to say that, but what we do know is teens like risk taking. Teens are drawn to risk taking, they're drawn to novelty, they're drawn to excitement, and we know that their brain is not maturing at an even rate. The brakes mature slower than the rest of the brain, which is the prefrontal cortex, and so there are risks. And also, Tony, what you said about it is normed. It is saturated into their environment.
Is there any safe amount of gambling for a teenager?
Okay, well, legally, they're not even supposed to be doing
Yeah.
it. So just starting there. But second of all, teenage gambling is like adult gambling.
Yeah.
Most people who engage with it won't get in trouble.
Okay.
But the more people who do it, the more are going to get sucked in. So I think whatever else we say to kids, we need to say, look, it's really fun, but it is manipulative. It is designed to keep you there.
Yeah.
It has a reward system that makes
And
you
the
feel
house
like
always wins.
the house always wins.
Stop
That
the
is
war.
what
Thank
we
you
have to say.
so much for being here.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you or a loved one are experiencing a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER for free, confidential